All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really jumping into one of the most fundamental conflicts you can find in the underworld.
Yeah, the big one, the code of silence
Yeah.
versus just, basic self-preservation.
Exactly. And our mission today is pretty surgical. We want to unpack how someone flips, right? What are the mechanics?
And we need to look at the consequences. This isn't just about legal maneuvering. We're talking about a deep, deep cultural contract of loyalty, the no snitching code.
And the stakes for breaking it are sometimes lethal, whether you're on the street or maybe even more so behind the walls in a max security prison. Your reputation, what they call your paperwork, is everything.
It's literally life and death.
So we're going to be looking at some high-profile cases, some strategic betrayals, and really debate the costs, both ethical and practical, of sticking to a code that the entire legal system is basically engineered to break.
We've got accounts from mob guys, cartel smugglers, prison shot callers. I mean, we're going right to the source to see what happens when that pressure's on.
Okay, so let's start there. Let's unpack the basic calculation. The prisoner's dilemma, but, for real.
With decades of your life on the table.
Right. You're a high-level guy, maybe a trafficker, maybe an organized crime, and you're sitting in a room with federal prosecutors. You're looking at decades, life even.
And it's at that moment that the government frames the decision to cooperate as the only sane choice. It's not just an incentive, it's coercion.
They design it that way. It's meticulously structured to incentivize betrayal.
They corner you.
Right.
Psychologically, legally, they make loyalty feel like you're setting yourself on fire.
And we see this in the offers they make, these textbook offers. We have this one account from a drug trafficker. He's actually facing white-collar charges initially.
Tax evasion, money laundering, serious stuff, but not, a life sentence.
Exactly. He's maybe looking at 5 years in a pretty comfortable minimum security spot, a camp, they call it. And then the DEA walks in with the classic offer.
The one you can't refuse.
The one you can't refuse. They don't just ask for some information. They tell him, give us a specific high-value target. They even name her Maria, a cartel member.
Someone they've been trying to get to for years. A ghost.
And the reward for giving her up is? It's total. They tell him, you walk out of here today. No felonies on your record. A clean slate.
And that's the Faustian bargain, isn't it? The difference between 5 years of your life gone versus nothing. Instant freedom. But the price is your soul, your identity in that world.
I mean, for a U.S. attorney to sign off on a complete walkaway deal like that, you have to understand the intelligence they're getting in return has to be absolutely explosive.
It has to be worth more than a 5-year sentence for a money launderer. They're trading up, and they're trading up big.
And this pressure, this initial high-stakes offer, it's a standard tactic. We heard from Mike Dowd, the former corrupt NYPD cop.
Right, he saw it from the other side.
When the government first came at him, they didn't offer him a deal. They came in with a plea agreement starting at 34 years.
34 years. He called it an insulting offer. I mean, at his age, 31, 32. That's a death sentence.
It's a life sentence by another name, and that's the point. They set the price of not cooperating so astronomically high virtual death by incarceration that anything less starts to look reasonable.
They're establishing the negotiation floor at an impossible number. It's pure psychological warfare. It makes 10 or 15 years feel like a victory.
But the incentives aren't always just about saving your own skin. And this, to me, is where the pragmatist view gets really interesting. Sometimes the currency is protecting the people you love.
Which is an inversion of the code, but yeah.
Think about the Virginia kingpin. He's facing a huge sentence, 32 years. And that's the low end of his guideline.
And you have to understand what that means. The low end being 32 years. That's not just about the weight of the drugs. That means they've hit him with all these enhancements. Leadership role, sophisticated operation.
He's cooked. Legally, he is completely cooked. So what's his incentive? What do they offer him?
His family.
Exactly. The accounts say his family got let go. Full immunity. In exchange for his full cooperation, he takes the 32 years, a massive sentence. But his wife, his kids, they walk away clean.
He pays the price so they don't have to.
And I'd argue, from a purely rational standpoint, that's the best investment you can make. Betraying your business associates to guarantee loyalty to your bloodline. It's a trade.
It's a trade that shatters the contract of the street, though. The organization is supposed to be your family, too.
Right.
But we also see guys who don't wait to be put in that position.
The strategic cooperators. This is where the game theory gets really tight.
Yeah, this is a whole other level.
Okay, so picture this. A cartel smuggler walks into a meeting with the U.S. attorneys. The table is lined with every agency you can think of. DEA, IRS, ATF, FBI, a whole alphabet soup.
Most guys would just sit down and shut up, wait for the hammer to fall.
Not this guy. The first thing he says is, "I'm ready to rack this thing." Just like that.
Which is just stunning, the boldness of it.
But see, he knew something they didn't think he knew. An officer on his payroll had already ticked him off that he was on their radar.
So he was playing offense, not defense.
Exactly. Instead of letting them grind him down, he walked in and offered them everything on day one. He controlled the negotiation from the jump. It floored the U.S. attorney.
He turned a position of weakness into one of strength. It just underscores how purely transactional this all is. The feds don't care why you're talking. They just care that the information is good.
It's all about utility. And you see that in the different kinds of informants. You have the public ones, the guys who get on the stand.
Like Anthony Arolotta in the Mafia. His testimony took down the whole leadership. It was a domino effect.
Then you have the other kind, the ones who operate in the shadows, the spies.
Right, like the Mafia informant, Michael. He never wore a wire. He was an intelligence asset, meeting in secret, feeding them information.
And not just case information, life-saving information. He reported a planned hit on a federal judge and another one on an assistant U.S. attorney.
He literally saved their lives. He's protecting the government from his own organization while still being inside it.
And this is the crucial part that proves how cold this system is. Later on, Michael gets jammed up on a smaller, totally separate charge.
Unrelated to the mob stuff.
Completely. And the FBI agent handling his file, this guy, Michael Gator, he just dismisses all that life-saving intelligence, says it's irrelevant to the new case.
He basically told him they didn't even give a damn about their own. The feds he saved, it didn't matter.
The relationship is only valuable as long as you're useful for their current case. There's no sentiment, no gratitude. It's a one-way street, and loyalty only flows towards a successful prosecution.
So when criminals see that, when they see the state operating with that level of cold, detached utility, it's only a matter of time before they start adopting the same playbook themselves.
And the code of silence stops being this sacred ethical wall.
And becomes just another tool, a shield you can drop whenever it's convenient. And this is where betrayal stops being just about survival.
It becomes a weapon.
It becomes an offensive weapon. And that, to me, is the ultimate sin. Using cooperation, not just to get out of a sentence, but to actively destroy your rivals, to gain a competitive advantage.
Moving from defense to offense, you're not just saving yourself, you're targeting your business rivals, and you're using the state to do it.
And some of these betrayals are just profound. The case of Willie Boy Johnson, it's chilling because of how long it went on.
How long was he an informant?
He was an undercover informant for the FBI against Gotti for 15 years.
15 years. Get your head around that. That's not a panicked flip in an interrogation room.
No. This was a sustained psychological performance. He was a shadowy long-game informant. He was sitting in the clubs, going to family events, talking every day with guys like Peter Gotti, Gene Gotti.
All while systematically taking them apart, feeding their plans, their weaknesses, directly to the FBI.
For a decade and a half. The mental fortitude to live that lie, knowing any slip-up could get you killed. From a loyalist view, that's so much worse than a guy who breaks under pressure. It's a cancer inside the organization. It proves trust is just an illusion.
And the fact that a betrayal that deep could even happen, it suggests the mafia's internal code was already rotting from the inside.
It absolutely was, and that's critical to understanding why so many guys started flipping in the 80s and 90s. Look at Sammy the Bull Gravano.
Right, he was involved in the hit on Paul Castellano.
Yeah, and his justification was always that Castellano broke the biggest rule: don't sell drugs in the mafia. That was the sacred old-school code. It brought too much heat. It corrupted the business.
But the rot was deeper than just drugs.
Right, much deeper. It became about petty greed. You had guys like Dominic killing another made man because he owed him $250,000.
So they're not killing for strategic reasons anymore. It's just for cash.
Exactly. When the leaders abandon their own code, when they trade honor for a quick buck, they create a moral vacuum. And in that vacuum, betrayal thrives. Why would you stay loyal to a system that kills its own over a money dispute?
It voids the contract. The moral contract is gone. So if that internal structure is already broken,
then cooperation becomes the logical next step.
The rational move isn't just to save yourself from the state, but to use the state to get an advantage over the other factions. We see this all the time in the drug world, where the stakes are billions.
Oh, constantly. The Detroit drug kingpin situation is a perfect example.
Lay it out for us.
Okay, his former connect, this guy Danny, he switched his allegiance. He used to work with the Juarez cartel, but he saw they were getting weaker. So he jumped over to the rising power, the Sinaloa cartel.
The strategic business move.
Right. But then he used his new position and all his old insider knowledge, he knew the kingpin's routes, his contacts, everything, to actively sabotage his old partner.
What did he do?
He would stop blocking loads. Which means he used his influence, either with the new cartel or maybe even with law enforcement contacts, to get the kingpin's shipments intercepted.
So he wasn't testifying. He was using information as a weapon in a business war.
Pure competitive sabotage, causing huge financial losses, creating chaos, drawing heat to his rival. It's the highest form of strategic disloyalty.
And law enforcement knows how to exploit that distrust. They actively create these situations. They weaponize the status of cooperators inside the prison system.
They use the code against them. It's the most cynical kind of game theory.
There's this incredible story about a New York mob captain. After he cooperates, they intentionally put him in the same federal unit as a rival.
And not just any rival. A rival whose son, the captain, was suspected of killing, according to the newspapers at the time.
So the government knows this. They know the history, the bad blood, and they put them in the same cage.
And then they cleared all the Italians out, only left him and I in there, thinking, okay, there's going to be a big blowout here.
They were trying to start a war. They were betting that the code, the need for revenge, would be stronger than anything else.
It's a dirty tactic. From the government's perspective, it's a win-win. Either the cooperator has to beg them for protection, making him even more dependent, or he gets taken out, and that's one less problem for them to deal with.
It just shows that they see the code of silence not as some honorable thing, but as a lever, something they can pull to create chaos and control.
And that's why, in these environments, the code has to be enforced, well, with absolute certainty. Which brings us to what happens inside.
Right. Bad paper.
When we talk about the code, you have to understand, in a max security prison, it's not a suggestion. It's not about guilt or feelings. It's enforced with lethal violence. No negotiation. Zero tolerance.
So the strategic calculation is gone. This is just pure, immediate survival.
It's the first and maybe the most brutal lesson you learn. There's this account of a sex offender arriving at a prison, his first day. A lifer, a guy doing life, had to prove his stripes right away, and he killed him immediately. And he wasn't the only one who went after him. A Samoan inmate attacked him too. It was an instant communal enforcement of the rule.
But why? Why would a guy already doing life throw on another murder charge?
Because, as they say themselves, what's another life sentence to him? For a lifer, murder isn't a deterrent. It's how you maintain your status. It's how you enforce the rules. The real crime, in their eyes, isn't the murder. It's allowing someone with bad paper to breathe the same air.
And bad paper isn't just being a sex offender. It's being a snitch, an informant. That's the worst kind you can have.
Absolutely. And they check. Every new guy who hits the tier, his paperwork is being checked. They want to know what your charges are, who you ran with, any hint of cooperation.
A life or death vetting process.
And the code makes zero allowance for your personal situation. None. We heard this horrifying story about a Mexican mafia inmate. He was murdered, stabbed 32 times.
Why? What was his crime?
A guard told, meaning told on him, for writing an underage girl through letters he was writing. A violation of their internal rules.
But here's the crazy part, the timing.
Yeah. The inmate had like 10 days left on a 30-year sentence.
10 days. After doing 30 years, he was almost out the door.
And the gang gave no consideration to that. Zero. He broke the code. That's an offense against the entire structure. The penalty had to be paid right then and there. 32 stab wounds. The message is clear. The code is forever. Your freedom is temporary.
And the violence isn't random. It's structured. There's a difference between a stabbing and a slashing.
A huge difference. A stabbing is usually meant to kill the person. That's for the ultimate violations. Snitching? Things like that.
And a slashing.
A slashing. Like the $150s they'd give at Rikers, needing 150 stitches.
Yeah.
That's discipline. It's not meant to kill the person. It's for a debt or a sign of disrespect. It leaves a permanent, very visible scar. It's a warning. But you're still alive.
So there's a clear hierarchy of violence. It's a system of law, in a way.
It is. And the leaders, the old-timers, like Big Black and the DC Blacks, his authority comes from knowing that law. He knows the code that we live by. He knows the history. That knowledge provides a stable, predictable structure in a world that is anything but.
Which is so ironic. A violent code provides stability.
It's a terrible kind of utility. But in that chaos, sometimes the only way to survive is to let go of the anger.
Right. We heard that advice given in county jail. It's so pragmatic. Forget about whoever ratted on you. The only thing that matters is survival.
You have to live in the moment. If you're constantly dwelling on who betrayed you on the outside, you're distracted. You're a target.
Yeah.
That rage is a vulnerability inside.
So you have this strange contrast. On the street, you have a kind of honor amongst thieves. The kingpin who wouldn't sell to pregnant women, for example.
A sort of moral self-regulation.
But inside, the prison code is absolute tribal. And to prove your honor, you often have to commit the most brutal acts imaginable. The environment weaponizes honor against you.
And there's no escaping it. That paperwork check is constant. When a new guy lands, everyone is watching. Where are you from? What's your jacket? One piece of bad paper, and you get that lethal response.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. Let's debate the core question. Is the code of silence rational in a system that is built to crush it?
I still argue that it's the only thing that preserves your identity, your self-respect. It's the difference between doing your time on your feet or on your knees. It's a stand.
But is it a stand that makes sense? Dignity doesn't shorten a sentence. When the incentives are so powerful, I mean, go back to the kingpin. Trading 30 years for his family's freedom, that is the ultimate rational investment in a world where loyalty is proven, time again, to be conditional.
But what about the philosophical cost? What about the damage to yourself? You look at Sammy Gravano. He cooperated. He survived. He won by some metrics.
He did. He played the game and won.
But even he, years later, talked about worrying about his last moments on Earth and feeling the overwhelming guilt for what he'd done. That's the true hell. Not the prison cell, but the internal knowledge that you destroyed your own moral compass. That poison stays with you forever.
I see that. But guilt is a luxury. When you're facing oblivion, that 34-year offer, the preservation of your family comes first. Future guilt is an abstract problem. A life sentence is a real one.
And yet, even when you try to leave the life, the system controls you. Look at the Nazi lowrider shot caller. He just wanted to get out of the gang life, do his time. But when his sentence was up, the system kicks you out. You can't just stay.
Which proves my point. Loyalty is finite. The desire for a life on the outside eventually forces you to break the code or at least leave it behind. The state holds the ultimate key, the release date.
But for many, betraying the code is betraying yourself. If the gang was your family, your support system, then cooperating destroys your entire identity. The community doesn't just forget you. They shun the guy and act like he's nobody anymore. It's a social death.
And maybe that's why the code itself is weakening in some areas. When the organizations themselves become too brutal, too unpredictable.
Like the Zetas. They operated with a level of violence that was just off the charts. Or when mafia factions started killing each other over money.
Right. When there's no honor left to protect, the contract is broken anyway. At that point, cooperation stops being a moral failure, and it just becomes another tool for survival.
And that leads to the final brutal irony of the whole system, the way it prioritizes utility over everything else.
Tell me.
You have the cooperator, right, like Boxer, the Mexican mafia guy, who told on a lot of people. What happens to him?
He's an asset. The state protects him. They transfer him, hide him. He's valuable.
Exactly. He's useful, so he's protected. Meanwhile, you have the guy with the bad paper, the inmate who was 10 days from getting out but broke an internal moral rule.
He's executed by his own people.
Right. The system protects the betrayer, who provides good intel, and the code executes the one who fails its internal honor test. Utility trumps everything. It's the most ruthless calculus imaginable.
So at the end of this, we've seen loyalty as this complex thing. It's a cultural contract. It's a tool for survival. It's a weapon for competitive advantage.
And the ultimate tension is always there for every single person caught in this. Do you submit to the state to get a shot at freedom, even if it means destroying who you are? Or do you stick to the code and maybe die in prison with good paper just days before you were supposed to walk free?
That choice, it doesn't just define your survival. It defines the meaning of your life.
It's everything.
So here's the final thought for you, the learner, to take away from this. When you see these criminal organizations using betrayal and information as strategic weapons against each other, Danny blocking loads, factions ratting each other out to get ahead, you have to ask, are they just mirroring the same cold, calculating tactics of the state they claim to hate? If critical thinking is what you need to survive in a world of information overload, is critical thinking about loyalty? Seeing it not as an absolute but as a flexible asset, is that the true cold-blooded path to survival in this world? Think about that. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.